The breaking point. The dinner that changed everything. I stood in the doorway of Marcus's family mansion, holding an empty tube of titanium white paint. My hands were shaking, not from nervousness, but from the weight of what I was about to do. Tonight would be the final test. Tonight, I would ask for $15 and watch my husband and his family reveal exactly who they really were. My name is Elena Martinez. I'm 34 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've been invisible. Not literally, of course, but in every way that matters. I disappeared the day I married Marcus Ashford and moved into his family's world of country clubs, charity galas, and carefully maintained appearances. Elena. Victoria's voice cut through the evening air like a knife. Why are you standing there like a statue? Our guests will arrive in 20 minutes, and you haven't even set the table properly. Victoria Ashford, my mother-in-law, a woman who introduced me to her friends as Marcus's wife and never by my name. A woman who had made it her personal mission to remind me daily that I wasn't good enough for her son. I'm sorry, Victoria, I said softly, slipping the paint tube into my cardigan pocket. I'll fix it right away. As I moved toward the dining room, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. 5 years ago, I had been different. My eyes had held fire and passion. My hands had been stained with paint more often than not. I had dreamed of gallery shows and international exhibitions. Now, I looked tired, worn down, like a painting that had been left in the rain too long, all the bright colors bleeding away. But appearances can be deceiving. The art of being invisible. Marcus found me in the kitchen, arranging wine glasses on the counter. He was wearing his expensive suit, the one that cost more than I used to make in 3 months when I was selling paintings at the farmer's market. That felt like a lifetime ago. Elena, did you iron my blue shirt? He asked without looking up from his phone. I need it for tomorrow's court appearance. Yes, it's in your closet, I replied, measuring my words carefully. I had learned that lesson well over the years. Say too much, and you're being dramatic. Say too little, and you're being cold. Good. He still hadn't looked at me. Also, Mom mentioned you've been spending time in that storage room again. You know how she feels about clutter. The storage room. That's what they called the small space in the basement where I kept my art supplies. The place where I spent a few precious hours each week, painting in secret, holding on to the one thing that made me feel like myself. I'm painting a mural for the community center, I explained quietly. It's for the children's program. I just need to buy a few more supplies to finish it. Marcus finally looked up, and I saw something flicker across his face. Annoyance? Embarrassment? It was hard to tell anymore. You're still doing that. He sighed heavily. Elena, we've talked about this. You're 34, not 22. At some point, you need to accept that art is a hobby, not a career. Each word landed like a small cut. I had heard variations of this speech dozens of times, but it never hurt less. I know it's just a hobby to you, I said carefully, but the children really love it. I just need $15 for some paint to finish. $15? His laugh was sharp and cold. You're asking me for $15 for paint? Elena, do you have any idea how much I spend on your living expenses? On your food, your clothes, the roof over your head. I felt the familiar burn of shame creeping up my neck, but I kept my voice steady. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. The mural needs to be finished by Friday, and ask Mom if she has any spare cash, Marcus interrupted, returning his attention to his phone. I'm not funding another one of your little art projects. Maybe if you got a real job, you wouldn't need to ask for handouts. A real job. As if the 5 years I'd spent managing his household, organizing his family's events, and being the perfect silent wife wasn't work. As if the paintings I created weren't real simply because they didn't come with a paycheck he could brag about. Okay, I said softly. I'll ask Victoria. He was already walking away. The secret I carried. What Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that in my cardigan pocket, folded carefully next to that empty paint tube, was a letter. A letter I'd received exactly 2 months and 3 days ago. A letter that had changed everything. Dear Ms. Martinez, we are pleased to inform you that your collection, Invisible Women, has been selected for exhibition at the International Gallery of Modern Art. The letter went on to explain that a private collector had seen photographs of my work online, pieces I'd posted under a pseudonym on a small art forum. This collector had purchased my entire collection, all 23 paintings, for $8 million. $8 million. More money than Marcus made in 10 years as a lawyer. More money than Victoria had inherited from her late husband. More money than his sister Sophia spent on her shopping addiction. I had received that letter on a Tuesday morning while everyone was out. I'd read it 3 times, certain it was a scam. Then I'd called the number listed, spoken to the gallery director, verified every detail with my shaking hands clutching the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. It was real. All of it was real. And I hadn't told anyone. The decision to wait. Instead of celebrating, instead of running to share the news with my husband, I had made a different choice. I decided to wait. To test them. To see who my family really was when they thought I had nothing to offer. For 2 months, I'd been meeting with lawyers in secret, setting up accounts, protecting my assets, documenting everything. Every cruel comment. Every dismissive gesture. Every moment they made me feel worthless. I recorded Victoria's phone conversations with her friends, where she called me dead weight and complained about having to support Marcus's charity case wife. I screenshot Sophia's social media posts, where she made fun of my secondhand clothes and called me the family disappointment. I saved Marcus's text messages to his law school buddies, where he complained about being stuck with a failed artist who couldn't even contribute financially. Every piece of evidence was carefully organized in a folder my lawyer kept secure. Every moment of cruelty was documented and dated, because I wanted to give them every chance to prove me wrong. I wanted to hope that maybe, just maybe, their treatment of me was about stress or misunderstanding. That deep down, they valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. But with each passing week, they showed me the truth. The final test begins. The dinner guests arrived right on schedule. Senator Harrison and his wife, Judge Peterson and his daughter, the Blackwell family who owned half the commercial real estate downtown. This was Victoria's crowd, powerful, wealthy, and completely uninterested in people who couldn't benefit them. I served the appetizers with a smile, moving through the room like a ghost. No one acknowledged me except to hand me their empty plates. "So, Marcus," Senator Harrison said, cutting into his expensive steak, "I hear your firm is expanding. That's impressive in this economy." Marcus beamed with pride. "Yes, sir. We're opening a second office downtown. It's been challenging, but we're making it work." What he didn't mention was that the expansion was drowning him in debt, that he'd mortgaged this house to fund it, that he was one bad quarter away from financial disaster. I knew because I'd seen the papers he thought he'd hidden. My lawyer had found them during the investigation I'd requested. Marcus Ashford, successful lawyer, was barely keeping his head above water. "And Elena," Mrs. Harrison said suddenly, turning her attention to me for the first time all evening. "What do you do, dear?" The table went silent. I could feel Victoria's warning glare from across the room. "I'm an artist," I said quietly. Sophia, Marcus's sister, laughed, that cruel, tinkling laugh she'd perfected over years of looking down on people. "Oh, Elena paints as a hobby. Little pictures of flowers and things. It's very cute." "Actually," I said, my voice stronger now, "I paint portraits and social commentary pieces. I've been working on a collection about women who become invisible in their own lives." "How fascinating," Judge Peterson said in a tone that meant the opposite. "And do you sell these paintings?" "I do," I replied, meeting his eyes directly. Or rather, I did. Recently, all of my work was purchased by a private collector. Marcus's fork clattered against his plate. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Sophia stopped mid-sip of her wine. "All of it?" Marcus asked, his voice strained. "What do you mean, all of it?" This was the moment. The test was about to reach its conclusion. "I mean exactly that," I said calmly. "But that's not important right now. Actually, I wanted to ask you something, Marcus. In front of our guests, so there's no confusion later." I pulled the empty paint tube from my pocket and held it up. "I need $15 to buy supplies to finish the community center mural, the one I've been working on for the children's program. Can you help me with that?" The humiliation, the silence that followed was suffocating. I watched Marcus's face turn red, saw the vein in his temples start to throb, the one that always appeared when he was angry or embarrassed. "Are you seriously doing this right now?" he hissed. "In front of our guests?" "I'm just asking for $15, I said softly. "That's all. $15 so children can have something beautiful to look at." Victoria stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "This is completely inappropriate, Elena. We have guests, and you're making a scene over pocket change." "Pocket change?" I repeated, tasting the words. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Pocket change. Less than the cost of one bottle of wine we're serving tonight. Less than Victoria spent on her manicure this week. Less than Sophia spends on coffee every single day. Sophia slammed her glass down. How dare you? After everything this family has done for you. What exactly have you done for me? I interrupted, and I saw shock ripple across their faces. I never interrupted. I never challenged. I never raised my voice. But tonight was different. I'm genuinely asking. I continued, my voice steady and clear. What have you done for me, Sophia? Besides post on social media about how I'm an embarrassment to the family? Besides telling your friends I'm the reason Marcus can't afford nicer things? Besides cropping me out of family photos? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. I turned to Victoria. And you? What have you done besides treat me like unpaid household staff? Besides introducing me to your friends as Marcus's wife instead of using my name? Besides calling me dead weight in your phone conversations? Victoria's face went pale. She hadn't known I'd heard those calls. Finally, I looked at Marcus. My husband. The man I'd loved enough to give up my dreams for. The man who had promised to support me through everything. And you, I said softly. What have you done besides make me feel worthless every single day for 5 years? The dinner guests were frozen, watching this private moment unfold before them. This wasn't the entertainment they'd expected tonight. Marcus stood up, his voice low and dangerous. How dare you humiliate me like this in my own home? After everything I've provided for you. $15, I said again. That's all I'm asking for. $15, Marcus. Will you help me or not? He stared at me, his jaw clenched, rage and embarrassment warring across his face. No, he said finally. No, Elena. I will not give you $15 to waste on paint for another one of your pointless projects. If you want money, get a job. A real job. Stop living in this fantasy world where you're some kind of artist. You're 34 years old. It's time to grow up. The reveal begins. I nodded slowly, as if I'd expected exactly that answer. Because I had. Okay, I said quietly. Thank you for being honest. Then I pulled out my phone and made a call. Yes, this is Elena Martinez. You can bring them in now. Marcus frowned. What are you talking about? Who are you calling? The doorbell rang, deep and resonant through the mansion. That would be my team, I said, walking toward the front door. You might want to prepare yourself, Marcus. The next few minutes are going to be very enlightening. I opened the door to reveal 5 people in professional attire. My lawyer, Catherine Mills, stood at the front. Behind her were 2 gallery representatives, a financial advisor, and a young woman carrying a laptop and several folders. Good evening, Mrs. Martinez, Catherine said with a warm smile. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, I replied, feeling a surge of strength I hadn't experienced in years. I'm ready. We walked back into the dining room together. This professional team that knew my worth, respected my talent, and saw me as the artist I truly was. The dinner guests were still frozen at the table. Victoria had gone completely pale. Sophia looked confused and angry. Marcus stood like a statue, his mind clearly racing to understand what was happening. Everyone, I said, my voice carrying through the room with newfound confidence. I'd like to introduce you to my legal and financial team. Catherine Mills, my attorney. Richard Chun and Maria Gonzalez from the International Gallery of Modern Art. Thomas Wright, my financial advisor. And Jessica Park, my new personal assistant. What is this? Victoria demanded. What's going on? I looked at each member of my family. These people who had spent years making me feel small and worthless. 2 months ago, I received news that would change my life forever. My artwork, the paintings you all dismissed as a cute hobby, was discovered by an international collector. My entire collection, 23 pieces exploring themes of invisible women and forgotten dreams, was purchased for $8 million. The gasps around the table were audible. Marcus stumbled backward, gripping the edge of the dining table for support. $8 million. Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, I confirmed. $8 million. After taxes and gallery fees, roughly $5.6 million in my personal accounts. Money that's mine alone, protected by prenuptial agreements and legal structures my team has carefully arranged. Marcus's face had gone from red to white. Why didn't you tell me? I'm your husband. You're right, I interrupted gently. You are my husband. And I did plan to tell you. That very day I received the news. I was so excited, so happy. I wanted to celebrate with the man I loved. I paused, letting the past tense of that statement sink in. But then I stopped and thought about something. I continued. I thought about how you treated me for 5 years. How you'd made me feel worthless for pursuing my passion. How you'd called my art a pointless hobby. How you'd suggested I get a real job instead of wasting time on paintings. Elena, I can explain. Marcus started, but I held up my hand. So I decided to conduct a test, I said. A simple test. I would continue living as I had been, watching how you all treated me when you thought I had nothing to offer. Would you show me kindness? Respect? Basic human decency. I looked around at their faces, shock, fear, calculation, all fighting for dominance. For 2 months, I documented everything. Every cruel comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment you made me feel invisible. And tonight was the final test. Would my husband give me $15 to finish a project that would bring joy to children? Or would he humiliate me in front of guests and tell me to grow up? Marcus's mouth opened, but no words came out. The answer, I said softly, is now very clear. Catherine stepped forward, opening one of the folders. Mrs. Martinez has compiled extensive documentation of the treatment she's endured. She's prepared to file for divorce and seek a full separation of assets. Divorce? Victoria's voice cracked. Elena, you can't be serious. We're family. Family. I repeated, the word tasting bitter. Family doesn't make each other feel worthless. Family doesn't mock each other's dreams. Family doesn't treat each other as invisible. I looked at each of them one final time. These people who had taught me that I needed to value myself because they never would. The test is over, I said quietly. And you all failed. Then I turned to my team, my real team, the people who had helped me plan my escape, and smiled. Let's go, I said. I have a new life waiting. And as I walked out of that mansion, leaving behind the shocked faces and desperate voices calling my name, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 5 years. Freedom. The unraveling. The morning after, I woke up in my new penthouse apartment to the sound of silence. Real silence. Not the kind where you're holding your breath, waiting for criticism. Not the kind where you're tiptoeing around, trying not to be noticed. This was the peaceful silence of freedom. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting golden squares across the hardwood floors. My new studio space, a massive room with perfect northern light, was already set up with fresh canvases, new paints, and brushes that hadn't been used to feel ashamed of my dreams. My phone had been buzzing since 6 in the morning. 37 missed calls. 62 text messages. All from Marcus, Victoria, and Sophia. I hadn't read a single one. Jessica, my new assistant, knocked softly on the bedroom door. Good morning, Mrs. Martinez. Your coffee is ready, and Catherine called. She said Marcus's lawyer has been trying to reach her office since 7. Let them wait, I said, stretching in the most comfortable bed I'd ever owned. What's on my schedule today? Jessica smiled. She was 26, brilliant, and treated my art career with the respect it deserved. The gallery wants to discuss your next exhibition at 10. The journalist from Art World magazine is coming at 2 for your interview. And you have a meeting with the community center director at 4 to present the finished mural. The mural? I'd gone out last night after leaving the mansion and bought the paint myself. $15 worth of titanium white, plus another $100 of supplies, because I could. Because I didn't need to ask anyone's permission anymore. Perfect, I said. And Jessica, thank you. For everything. She nodded, understanding exactly what I meant. You're welcome. Also, there's someone in the lobby who's been waiting since 7:30. He says he's your husband, and he needs to talk to you urgently. Marcus. Of course. Tell security he's not on the approved visitor list, I said calmly. He can communicate through lawyers like everyone else. The desperate phone call. By noon, the calls had increased to 53. Marcus had moved from denial to bargaining, if his voicemail messages were any indication. I finally listened to one while eating lunch. A beautiful salad Jessica had ordered from the organic cafe downstairs. Elena, please. I know you're angry, but we need to talk about this like adults. You can't just throw away 5 years of marriage over a misunderstanding. I love you. We can work this out. Just answer the phone. Please. His voice cracked on that last word. Once, that would have broken my heart. Once, I would have called him back immediately, apologized for causing trouble, tried to make things right. But that version of me died the moment he refused to give me $15 and told me to grow up. The next message was from Victoria. Her tone was different, sharper, more demanding. Elena, this is ridiculous. You're being incredibly selfish and dramatic. Marcus is distraught. The whole family is upset. You humiliated us in front of our closest friends. Senator Harrison has been asking questions. Do you have any idea what you've done to our reputation? Call me back immediately so we can discuss this situation rationally. Situation. That's what I was to her. A situation to be managed. The third message I listened to was from Sophia, and it was exactly what I expected. Oh my God, Elena, are you serious right now? You can't actually be doing this. Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings or whatever, but you're being insane. $8 million? If that's even true, and honestly, it sounds made up, but if it is true, you owe this family everything. We supported you for 5 years. We gave you a home. We fed you. You can't just take the money and run. That's not how family works. Call Marcus back before you ruin everything. I deleted all 3 messages without responding. The truth comes out. At 2 o'clock, Catherine arrived at my penthouse with a thick folder and a grim expression. Marcus's lawyer reached out, she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. They want to negotiate. Negotiate what? I asked. The prenup is ironclad. My art income is completely separate from marital assets. They know that, Catherine replied, which is why they're getting creative. They're claiming that because you used supplies purchased with marital funds and worked in their home, they're entitled to a portion of your earnings. I laughed, a real laugh, not the polite, quiet ones I'd perfected over 5 years of marriage. The supplies I bought with my own money? The storage room I was criticized for using? The hobby they told me to give up? Exactly, Catherine said with a slight smile. It's a weak argument, and they know it. But Marcus is desperate. His law firm is in serious financial trouble. She opened the folder and spread several documents across the desk. Bank statements, loan agreements, credit reports. The financial investigation I'd requested had been thorough. The new office expansion was a disaster, Catherine explained. He borrowed heavily, assuming the clients would follow. They didn't. He's 3 months behind on the commercial lease. The bank is threatening to call on the loans. And this house, the mansion you just left, has a second mortgage he took out 6 months ago. How much does he owe? I asked, studying the numbers. Total debt? Just over $2 million. He's been using credit cards to pay the minimum on other credit cards. It's a house of cards, Elena, and it's about to collapse. I sat back in my chair, processing this information. Marcus, who had made me feel worthless for not contributing financially, was drowning in debt. Marcus, who had called my art a pointless hobby, needed my money to save himself. There's more, Catherine continued. Victoria mortgaged her late husband's property to support Sophia's lifestyle. Sophia's husband filed for divorce 2 months ago because of her spending. The entire family is in financial crisis. And they thought I had nothing to offer, I said quietly. They thought you were an easy target, Catherine corrected. Someone who would be grateful for scraps and never ask questions. They were wrong. The public humiliation. By evening, the story had spread through their social circle like wildfire. Senator Harrison's wife had apparently told everyone about the dramatic dinner scene. The invisible artist wife who turned out to be a millionaire. The husband who refused her $15. The shocking reveal. My phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had tagged me in a social media post. Against my better judgment, I clicked it. It was from Victoria's friend group. The women who lunched at expensive restaurants and judged everyone who didn't meet their standards. The post was a screenshot of an old photo Victoria had shared months ago, showing the family at some charity event. I'd been cropped out of the image. The caption read, "Remember when Victoria Ashford bragged about supporting her son's charity case wife? Turns out the charity case is worth $8 million and just divorced him. Guess she won't be needing their support anymore. #karma #don't judge a book." It had 300 likes and counting. The comments were brutal. I always thought they treated her terribly at those parties. She was so quiet and sweet, and Victoria acted like she was doing her a favor by acknowledging her. Marcus Ashford refused to give his wife $15 for paint? What kind of man does that? I heard his law firm is bankrupt. Maybe he should have been nicer to his millionaire wife. Victoria was being destroyed in the court of public opinion. The same people she'd impressed with her mansion and her connections were now laughing at her behind her back. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Elena. It was Marcus, his voice hoarse like he'd been crying. Please don't hang up. I'm calling from a friend's phone because you blocked my number. I just need 5 minutes. Please. I should have hung up. But I found myself saying, you have 3 minutes. Talk. I made a mistake, he said, the words tumbling out fast. A huge mistake. I took you for granted. I didn't see your value. I was stressed about money, and I took it out on you, and that was wrong. But Elena, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I can be better. I can support your art career. I'll tell everyone how talented you are. Just please, don't throw away our marriage. Are you finished? I asked when he paused for breath. Elena, your 3 minutes are up, I said quietly. And here's what you need to understand, Marcus. This isn't about the money. It was never about the money. Then what is it about? His voice broke. Tell me what I need to do to fix this. It's about the fact that you made me invisible, I said, each word clear and measured. For 5 years, you treated me like I didn't matter. My dreams didn't matter. My feelings didn't matter. My worth as a human being didn't matter unless I could benefit you somehow. That's not true. You refused to give me $15, Marcus. $15 to finish a project that would make children smile. You called my art pointless. You told me to grow up. You humiliated me in front of your family's friends. I was stressed. Everyone is stressed, I interrupted. Stress doesn't make you cruel. Stress reveals who you really are when the mask comes off. And you showed me exactly who you are. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly. So that's it? 5 years of marriage gone. No, I said. 5 years of marriage where I learned that I deserve better than someone who only values me when I'm useful to them. 5 years of learning to value myself. The firm is failing, Elena. His voice dropped to a whisper. I'm going to lose everything. The office, the house, my reputation. I need help. And there it was. The real reason for the call. Not because he loved me. Not because he missed me. Because he needed my money. I'm sorry you're in financial trouble, I said, meaning it. But that's not my responsibility anymore. You have 3 days to move your belongings out of the mansion before the bank seizes it. Catherine has already sent the timeline to your lawyer. You knew? He sounded shocked. You knew about the debt? I knew everything, Marcus. I've known for 2 months. Every phone call, every text message, every social media post. I documented all of it while I planned my exit. You've been planning to leave me for 2 months? His voice rose with anger and hurt. While pretending everything was fine, I wasn't pretending anything. I corrected. I was being exactly who I've always been. Quiet, invisible Elena who asks for help and gets humiliated instead. The only difference is that I stopped hoping you'd change. I accepted who you really are. The sister's desperation. The next morning, Sophia showed up at my building. Security called up, asking if I'd see her. Tell her I'm not available, I said. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Elena, it's Sophia. I'm in your lobby. Please, I need to talk to you. It's important. It's about Jason. Jason, Marcus's 15-year-old son from his first marriage. A sweet kid who'd always been kind to me, even when the rest of the family wasn't. He was the one person I actually regretted leaving behind. Against my better judgment, I told security to let her up. Sophia arrived at my door looking nothing like her usual polished self. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her makeup was smudged. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of her usual designer outfits. Thank you for seeing me, she said, and I heard genuine desperation in her voice. I didn't invite her to sit. You said this was about Jason. What's wrong? He's upset, Sophia said, her voice cracking. Really upset. He locked himself in his room and won't come out. He keeps saying it's his fault you left. That if he'd been nicer to you, maybe you would have stayed. My heart clenched. It's not his fault. Jason was always kind to me. I know, Sophia whispered. He's the only one who was. And now he's suffering because the rest of us were terrible. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she'd used in the past to get what she wanted. I was horrible to you, she said. I made fun of you. I excluded you. I posted awful things on social media. I told my friends you were dead weight. and you didn't deserve any of it. No, I agreed quietly. I didn't. I was jealous, Sophia continued, the words coming faster now. You had this passion, this thing you loved, and you pursued it even when everyone told you it was stupid. I gave up everything I loved because Mom said it wasn't practical. I married a man I didn't love because he had money. And I hated you for having the courage to keep creating, even when we all made fun of you. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation. But all I saw was genuine remorse and exhaustion. Why are you really here, Sophia? I asked. Is it about Jason, or is it about the money? She flinched like I'd slapped her. It's about Jason. But it's also my marriage is over. My husband left me because I spent money we didn't have, trying to keep up with Mom's lifestyle. I'm broke, Elena. Completely broke. I have nothing. And you want me to help you? I said, not a question. No, she said, surprising me. I want to apologize. For everything. You don't owe me anything. You don't owe any of us anything. We treated you like garbage, and now we're paying for it. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. And that Jason needs to hear from you that none of this is his fault. I walked to my desk and wrote something on a piece of paper. Then I handed it to Sophia. This is the name of a therapist who specializes in teenagers, I said. Tell Jason I'll call him next week. We can have lunch, just the two of us. But Sophia, you need to understand something. I'm not coming back. Not to Marcus. Not to that family dynamic. Not to being invisible. She nodded, clutching the paper like a lifeline. I understand. And Elena, your art really is beautiful. I saw photos of your collection online. I should have told you that years ago. After she left, I stood by the window, looking out at the city that was now full of possibilities instead of limitations. Catherine was right. The family wasn't sorry for how they'd treated me. They were sorry they'd lost access to my money. But in Sophia's eyes, I'd seen something real, recognition that their cruelty had destroyed more than just my self-esteem. It had destroyed their own integrity. The gallery opening. That evening, I attended a preview of my upcoming exhibition. The International Gallery of Modern Art had transformed an entire wing into a showcase of my work. 23 paintings, each telling the story of women who'd been made invisible by the people who claimed to love them. The gallery was filled with collectors, critics, and artists I'd admired for years. People who saw my work and understood what I'd been trying to say. People who valued art not because it was expensive, but because it was true. Richard Chun, the gallery director, introduced me to a woman in her 60s wearing elegant black and silver jewelry. Elena, this is Diane Morrison. She's the collector who purchased your entire collection. I shook her hand, stunned. You're the one who bought my work. Diane smiled warmly. Every single piece. I saw your paintings online, and I couldn't stop thinking about them. The way you captured the experience of being dismissed, overlooked, treated as if your existence was an inconvenience. It resonated with me deeply. May I ask why? I said softly. Because 30 years ago, I was you, Diane replied. My husband and his family treated me exactly the way yours treated you. They made me feel worthless for pursuing my passion, writing, in my case. They called it a hobby. They told me to grow up and get a real job. What happened? I asked, though I suspected I knew. I left, she said simply. And I built a life based on my own values. My books have sold over 40 million copies worldwide. But more importantly, I learned that my worth wasn't determined by people who couldn't see it. She gestured to the paintings around us. Your work tells that story better than I ever could. It shows the quiet strength it takes to remain creative when everyone around you is trying to diminish you. That's why I wanted to preserve the entire collection. These paintings deserve to be seen together, as a complete narrative of transformation. I felt tears prickling at my eyes. Thank you. You have no idea what that means to me. Oh, I think I do, Diane said with a knowing smile. And Elena, this is just the beginning. The world is ready to hear your voice. Don't let anyone make you invisible ever again. The final message. Late that night, back in my penthouse, I finally read through all the messages from Marcus, Victoria, and Sophia. Most were variations of the same themes: denial, anger, bargaining, accusations, desperate pleas. But one message stood out. It was from Marcus, sent at 2 in the morning. I watched the video of your gallery opening tonight. Someone posted it online. You looked happy, really happy. I can't remember the last time I saw you smile like that when you were with me. Maybe you're right. Maybe I made you invisible. I don't know how to fix that, or if it can even be fixed. I just wanted you to know that I finally see it. I finally see what I did. I'm sorry, Elena. Not because of the money. Not because I need something from you. But because you deserved better, and I didn't give it to you. I hope your new life brings you everything you deserve. I read the message 3 times. It was the first genuinely honest thing he'd said to me in 5 years. No manipulation. No excuses. Just acknowledgement and apology. It didn't change anything. I wasn't going back. But it felt like closure I hadn't known I needed.